evening. As a preliminary matter, this is John Regan, Chair of the Auburn Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members are present. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Duarkesh Nalin.
Present.
Ronald Brooks.
Present.
Sierra Samara.
Present.
Jason Assarifi.
Present.
Glenn Feldman.
Here.
Town officials and employees participating, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Town Planner Dr. Adam Menard.
Here.
Staff Assistant Daniel Chamberlain Roberts.
Here.
Good evening. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Planning Board of Tuesday, April 9, 2024, now called to order at 7 p.m. This meeting is being conducted as a hybrid format under Chapter 22 of Acts of 2022. This meeting, the Planning Board is convening in person and by remote access. The remote access information has been posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that the meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. Is there anyone here in the audience tonight that is recording tonight's meeting? Seeing none. Accordingly, those members of the Planning Board, employees, and members of the public who participate remotely, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you. Please take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Please rise and join us in the salute to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All supporting materials that have been provided to the members of the body are available on the town's website. I would like to remind the audience, applicants, town administration, and each of the planning board members to please refrain from asking questions in regards to all matters discussed this evening without first being granted my consent. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. First on the agenda tonight is applicant J.P. Morgan Chase requesting special permit and site plan approval under section 3.2.5.11 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for a bank with a drive-through at 368 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass. 01501, map 33, parcel 81. Is there anyone here representing J.P. Morgan Chase? Oh, it's Todd, huh?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind just hanging on 1 minute, we're just going to pull up some visuals. Good evening, Todd Broder from Fletcher Tilton here on behalf of the applicant. We're here tonight, I'm here with Nick Dewars from Bowler Engineering, and we're here tonight to discuss with you JP Morgan Chase Bank branch facility at this particular location. So you'll note from the overhead that's behind you that this is the Shaw's supermarket plaza. There are two parcels here, actually independently owned. So the Bank of America is owned independent from the Shaw's and what was the Bed Bath & Beyond, or maybe more affectionately for some, the old Service Merchandise back in the day. So this particular facility that we're going to propose is an infill development project, a bank branch at this location. It's in the Drury Square Village District. So this location does mention that we're going to have a drive-through. It's a drive-through ATM only. We had some of that discussion at DCG, and it is important for the bank to have a drive-through, drive-up ATM rather. There is also an additional ATM at the front of the facility in the vestibule for walk-up folks, but there is a drive-through. It's a single lane with an escape lane, as we'll show you on the plans once we get going. The entire parcel is 6.23 acres. The Chase facility that we're proposing is a little over 3,300 square feet. So it's a modern bank branch facility, not overly large. This will result in a reduction of the overall parking on the site. Currently, there are 330 spaces that service the entire plaza, the Shaw's, the Bed Bath, and the other parking that's there. We'd be reducing that by 33 spaces. The zoning bylaw requires 183, so we're still 100 plus in excess of what the zoning bylaw otherwise requires, but it is a reduction of those available spaces by 33. So Nick's going to run you through some of the site features, and I'm sure you'll have questions, and we can dig into the details We did get a few comments from staff, DPW. We'll address those, and we know we need to go through the review process with Graves Engineering, and we weren't provided that letter yet. I'm not sure that it came in yet. So we do expect that we will be continuing on to a further hearing, but we do want to have this initial discussion, get your feedback, get any of those details handled that we can handle, so we have one plan set revision and come back and hopefully satisfy the board on the various items and concerns that there may be. So, Nick, you want to?
Yeah. Thank you, Todd. For the record, Nick Dewhurst with Bowler. We're the civil engineers on the project. Forgive me if I repeat anything Todd already said, but I'll just kind of run through sort of a high-level overview of the project for you all. So, as Todd mentioned, the site is 368 Southbridge Street. It's a 6.23 acre parcel that comprises the Shaws and the vacant additional commercial use that was the Bed Bath & Beyond. The site's bounded by, as you can see here, 290 to the west, Swanson Road to the south, Southbridge Street to the east, and the high school to the north. The proposed project, really the area that we're kind of focused on here is kind of this easterly portion of the lot, really kind of the portion that fronts Southbridge Street. A few kind of street view photos here, just sort of showing the project area that we're going to be discussing a little closer, sort of going north down Southbridge Street. Again, here's the Bank of America building here, what was Bed Bath & Beyond back here, the athletic fields for the high school here. You can see the parking lots in not great shape with the associated sidewalk along Southbridge Street, but really the project is limited to this portion here that, again, is really just comprised entirely of paved parking today. So I'll flip over to our proposed site plan here. So it's a 3,366 square foot bank building. Again, it does have that drive-through ATM at the rear of the building, so that's sort of this bump out here. There is an adjacent bypass lane, full bypass lane adjacent to that drive-up ATM lane. We're also proposing sidewalk improvements, lighting, landscaping, utility, typical improvements you would see with most ground-up developments. One thing I want to point out is, as I'm sure many of you are aware, within the Drury Square Village District, there is that 10-foot maximum setback from Southbridge Street that's required. So really that's why our building is kind of up against Southbridge Street. We are within that 10-foot setback. Touch on the parking a little bit. As Todd mentioned, the existing site's comprised of 333 spaces. It's a net loss of 330 spaces, a net loss of 33 spaces to result in a total of 297, which again is it's still significantly above what the zoning parking requirements require. Access to the site, currently it's served, there's the one curb cut off Southbridge Street that's really in the same general area that we're proposing our kind of new defined curb cut. Understanding that's going to need to be permitted and sort of fine-tuned with DOT, which we have filed for our access permit application. We haven't received any comments yet, but we understand that, we'll need to work with them to sort of fine-tune that layout. The other access point that serves this site, and again, this is for the overall shopping center, is the one on Swanson Road that's located up here. We're not touching that at all. So that's going to stay entirely the same. As far as pedestrian access, we are providing a new ADA accessible pedestrian sidewalk from the existing sidewalk on Southbridge Street that you can see here, kind of meanders around. And that sort of leads up right to the front of the Chase Bank entrance. We are providing lighting improvements, which is really just, numerous building-mounted and pole-mounted light fixtures throughout the site. In addition to that, you can see sort of rendered on this plan is we're providing, numerous landscape improvements consisting of trees, shrubs, perennials, ground cover. Really, the way we see it, again, this portion of the lot is just entirely paved and parking area today. So I think we're actually adding about over 4,000 square feet of pervious landscape surfaces. So we really see it as an improvement specifically along the streetscape along Southbridge Street. We think that it's really going to dress up the plaza in that area much nicer than sort of what it looks like today. We are providing a trash enclosure. As I'm sure you can imagine, these Chase or really any bank branch, they're not going to generate a ton of trash, but Chase does prefer to have that enclosure, which we're showing here. It's fully screened by CMU block wall, as well as you can see we're planting arborvitaes around the entire limits aside from the front as well. Utilities are relatively straightforward. We're proposing new water and sewer connections to the municipal system. We have received comments from both water and sewer, and nothing jumped out at us as being significant issues. I'm sure there's some tweaks that we'll have to make just to satisfy those requirements, but nothing that we've seen that's concerning. We're providing a new electric service. Chase Bank, these new branches, they're actually not. They don't require a gas service. They're all VRF mechanical systems, so there won't be any gas to this bank. And as far as stormwater, we are proposing some stormwater improvements. There's some existing infrastructure out here that we're going to be maintaining as best we can. We have received, as part of our major land disturbance application with DPW, we have received some comments regarding our stormwater improvements. I've spoken with Emma over at the engineering department, and we understand there are some additional improvements that we're going to have to make. When I spoke with Emma, I think we sort of agreed upon what, our thoughts are as far as best approach to address those comments, and we're perfectly comfortable and confident that we'll be able to address all stormwater issues. Well, not issues, but requirements that the DPW has out here. So those improvements aren't included on the plans that were initially submitted to the board, but we will be working closely with DPW to address those comments. As Todd said, we are awaiting peer review comments from Graves. We have had a few different comment letters from different town staff trickle in. We haven't jumped on those and started revising things yet. We figured we'd sort of wait for Graves' comments and sort of hit them all at once. We did actually catch up with Jake over at the fire department yesterday. He had a handful of comments regarding, fire access around the site, and we had a really productive conversation, and think we also have sort of a game plan moving forward there to address those comments. Really, that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions that the board has. If you want me to go into detail on anything else, I'm happy to do that as well.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions for this gentleman? Being none, anybody on the board have any questions for him? Glenn? Sierra?
No.
Rakesh?
Yeah. One question, Chair. So, would you mind explaining the drive-through lane? So.
Sure. Yeah, so as I mentioned, there is the primary drive-up ATM lane. Again, there's no teller window associated with this. It's strictly that ATM machine. So that will be located at this bump out here, and then this other lane that's sort of just outside of that is a full bypass lane. So if for any reason emergency vehicles you're in the queue and need to exit that ATM and there's a car in front of you. You can escape out of that lane. So it's a pretty standard ATM operation, just with that bypass lane.
I think my only question or concern is, when vehicles are coming north, on Southbridge, and they take, I think that's what one of the comments was, right, from the town departments. When they take a left turn there and get into the bank area and get into the drive-through lane, if there is a backup, that could essentially lead up to a backup on Southbridge.
You're saying a backup within the site so sort of a queue for the ATM. So with what we've seen, we do a handful of these Chase Bank projects. The ATM and really what Chase expects is a queue of no more than 3 to 4 cars at a time. They turn over pretty quick. Again, there's no teller window or interaction, so it's pretty limited functions on that ATM. So we don't anticipate that being an issue. We feel that the length that we're providing here from a queuing capacity standpoint is certainly adequate and maintains the standards that we provide on a lot of the typical Chase banks that we've done.
Could the queuing happen from the west side? So
You're saying up here?
Yeah, so instead of coming in from Southbridge, can the queuing happen from where?
Reverse it?
From the other side?
So I think the issue there is it would take some pretty significant interior, customizations of the building to relocate that ATM. This is sort of a typical and standard Chase floor plan that they prefer. Again, we really don't see the queuing and the stacking at the ATM being an issue spilling out onto the site. And to be honest, so I think we have room for 4, potentially even 5 cars in here, which is more than we would ever anticipate seeing at a time. If there was ever, additional vehicles, we feel, comfortable that it could be managed within the site and wouldn't create any adverse impacts to the traffic within Southbridge Street or really the overall plaza, and affect the operations of the other tenants.
Thank you. I think one last observation or question is I think in the narrative you talked about the DOT or the traffic assessment study.
Yep.
Has the DOT reviewed that? Is that part of the application?
So, I'm sorry?
Is that part of the access permit application?
I don't believe I'd have to double check. I don't know if DOT is concerned too much about the actual, trips in and out of the site. It's more layout of the driveway. But we do, we provided that traffic assessment to you folks. So I'd have to double check again. We did submit that application. It's done all online. So I'd have to double check if we did upload that or not. But yeah, I can look into that and get you an answer. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Ryan, you have any questions?
So to the right of the bank, beyond that landscaped island, you've created a new roadway that will feed Shaw's and Bed Bath & Beyond building?
Correct. Yeah, it's sort of a more defined drive aisle as from what exists today. You can see sort of fainted in the background the yellow parking lines, and really the parking in the existing condition sort of goes all the way up to that property line. I think there's a few feet of buffer, so you can see we are adding additional landscaping there. Again, it really will just help sort of define that curb cut a bit better and kind of direct vehicles in a way that doesn't really exist out there today. It's sort of just a sea of pavement, and the pavement markings are sort of faint. So we're hoping this will kind of clean things up, at least, this portion of the property.
And if you haven't already said it, dumpster location?
Yep.
Snow storage?
Yeah, so we didn't show snow storage specifically on our site plan that was submitted to the board. We're happy to do that. Again, we're creating about 4,000 square feet of new landscaped area, so we feel there's adequate space for snow storage. We have a pretty significant landscape island here, and then we're creating that additional buffer along this property line as well that we feel could hold a significant amount of snow. And the trash enclosure is, I don't know if you can see the pointer, but it's located here. And again, that's fully screened by both CMU block wall and arborvitaes.
Question. Can you speak to traffic heading southbound turning into the lot going into Shaw's? Currently, as it stands now, most people turn right and go right into the parking lot rather than go to the traffic light and up Swan Road. So was that taken into account? Because I imagine that would create a significant amount of traffic.
Yeah, so we did submit a traffic assessment. I believe they touch on the existing access points and the new altered access point. These banks really aren't significant traffic generators. We don't see, I forget what the numbers are, they're in that report, but it's really a handful of additional trips to the plaza from both curb cuts during peak hours. I can't speak a ton specifically to those numbers just because I'm not the traffic consultant. But I'm happy to if you have any specific questions that the traffic assessment doesn't answer, I'm happy to take those to the team and the traffic consultant and provide additional information if required.
I guess my concern is almost because having driven by a million times, people just kind of drive into the parking lot
Yeah.
any way they want. So now I feel like a bottleneck is being created a little bit over there. So I just want to make sure that kind of gets addressed so we don't have any issues.
So you're saying bottleneck, I'm sorry, where specifically?
Right, at your curb cut right there.
The bypass lane.
Yeah.
Right up the whole right side of the bank.
Yeah, I can see that too being an issue because a lot of people, I feel like, use that and it looks like it's a lot smaller in your.
Yeah, and again, so the drive aisles we're providing are 25 feet, which is standard with the zoning regulations. I believe DOT, they're going to want similar 24-foot throw it at the driveway. So as far as narrowing the existing curb cut, we certainly are I don't think by a ton. I think it's really just a few feet. And again, it's really just to kind of bring it into the town standards and DOT standards. But we can certainly take a look at, with our traffic consultant if they expect any sort of queuing or congestion issues in this area here. Yeah, happy to take an additional look at that.
Thank you.
They don't really just take a right and go into Shaw's. They take an angle shot over to Bank of America. Which they
Yeah.
do to avoid the light, so.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That means
hopefully
that-
this sort of cleans things up a little bit and defines the traffic patterns within at least this portion of the site.
Well, what's gonna happen is they're gonna take a right going into your bank, or say they wanna go to Bank of America. They gotta go up, you're gonna cut through your little parking area there between your landscape and your bank, over to Bank of America, create more traffic through there and pedestrian problems coming out to people getting to their parked cars. That's what I see. The other thing I see is you have the property owner to the left where Bank of America is listed as Worcester County Institution for Savings. They haven't existed in I don't know how long.
Okay. Yeah, I can take a look at that. Yeah, we had a full ALTA survey done of the entire parcel, and that's who they listed, or the entire parcels, and that's who they listed as the property owner, but we can certainly double check that and fix it if
So
needed.
your property that you're going to actually own is, because I see the cutout around where Bank of America is. How far, do you own the whole plaza other than Bank of America, including Shaw's and the old?
Yep. Yeah, I can
Path
scroll
beyond?
back to, this plan sort of shows it a little better.
So Shaw's leases from you?
No, so we're actually working on behalf of Chase Bank, who's in negotiations with the landlord, the overall property owner for this project. So the Chase Bank would be leasing from the overall property owner.
Maybe leasing the area that the bank's going to be in, the whole parking area and
Correct, yep.
everything else. Couple other things. Well, Ron already mentioned snow storage. Give me a second, I got to page through this. All your plantings, are they native? Are they ornamental? Because there's been a big thing lately in town about trying to keep the plantings native instead of.
Sure.
I like to put ornamental stuff in, but
Yeah, so
don't do well, and a year later, you got dead plants out there nobody cares about.
yeah, no, absolutely. So we have an in-house landscape architectural team. I can't speak specifically to if all the plantings are native. we do, a variety of work in the area, Auburn, surrounding towns, and our landscape team is very familiar with what works and what doesn't work in these areas. So I feel confident that they are, but I can give you a definitive answer when I check with our landscape team.
Okay, so the tie-in for the sanitary main into the 24-inch, RCP into the street, is that going to be a core and seal or a saddle or what?
That's something we're definitely going to have to work through with the sewer department. Like I said, we did receive comments from them. I think they specifically actually didn't have any significant concerns, or really any concerns at all. Yeah, they did not, in their sort of review letter, they didn't specify what connection they prefer, but we can reach out to them and sort of further coordinate that with them.
The other thing is, I don't think you can get a detail for your frame and cover because they don't make them anymore. LeBaron's been out of business for 15 years.
Who is that?
LeBaron, that's who you quarter on your plans.
Okay.
LeBaron Foundry, they don't exist.
We can certainly update that. Do you have a preference or a manufacturer?
They have EL Foundry does it, Nina does manhole covers. That's about all I got. I just, like Jason, I'm worried about the traffic building up on Route 12 and people not knowing where to go. I mean, every change takes time for people to get used to, but like the sidewalk and the driveway entrance, that's all DOT.
Yep,
It's got nothing to do with the town, so.
exactly.
You may be a while getting your permit from DOT.
Yeah, we've been down that road a handful of times before, so
We've had people-
that's why we got the application submitted early in the process to get
We've had
that
people
ball.
come before the board before that it took DOT so long, they gave up the project.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's tricky too, because every district, functions differently and is a little more particular than others, so you never really know what you're gonna get, but yeah, we'll see.
Oh, you never know.
John, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I had a question, sir, about the fire lane
Yeah,
from the fire department's letter.
yep.
Could you show us specifically where that is?
Yeah, so like I said, we actually spoke with Jake yesterday just to sort of get some further clarification on his comments. So really what he's asking for is us to just provide a turning movement for the, standard Auburn fire apparatus into the site without really impeding on the adjacent traffic lanes. So we're looking at that now, and really from what I gathered in our conversation is if we can make that work with that turning movement into the site, we really don't need to provide a designated fire lane. The drive aisle, that serves the other vehicles can sort of act as that fire lane. I think all he was looking for was a minimum width of 20 feet, which our drive aisles are 24 feet. Again, there's certainly some further coordination that's going to need to be done between us and Jake, specifically with the fire department. But we feel confident that the layout that we're providing now won't be changing really too significantly based off of any changes we make to address fire's comments based off our discussion with Jake.
I kind of put the cart before the horse here. Can I have a motion to open the hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a
Go
second?
again.
Second.
All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Jason? Myself, aye, it is a vote. Sorry. Do you have any other questions?
Question, what's your projected timeline? This just,
As far as construction?
yeah.
I really can't speak to that. Typically, what we've seen with Chase is they put shovels in the ground relatively quickly after, going through the entitlements process. If I had to put, an approximation to it, I would say maybe a late summer, early fall start date. But again, I really don't know.
The best case scenario.
Just wanted to make a comment, Mr. Chairman, about the traffic. And I know, Nick appropriately said he's not a traffic engineer, and neither am I. But the traffic report is in the submission materials that the town has. And on page 3, there's a bit of a trip generation summary, and there's just a paragraph below that I think is important to note, and it's talking about the Table 1 trip generation. Just going to read a little bit of it. The proposed bank is expected to generate approximately 6 new vehicle trips, 4 entering and 2 exiting, during weekday morning peak hours, approximately 17 additional new vehicle trips, 8 entering, 9 exiting, during the weekday afternoon peak, and approximately 18 additional new vehicle trips, 9 in, 9 out, during the Saturday midday peak hour. So not a lot of new traffic generated by this particular project.
No, it's just getting people used to going all the way by the bank, taking left to Bank of America or going to Shaw's.
I went through the plaza today and, you know, you go in and it's, which way do I go? Which way do I want to go, right? But this will help because it's going to define the traffic pattern. It will take a trip or two for some to figure it out, but eventually the right in and, okay, I'm going to go down. I don't think people are going to cut through that bypass lane. I don't think that's going to happen, but I could be wrong, right? But they have the ability to go around, and now they might find it's more useful to go straight to the light. You know, people may alter their patterns, but this, you know, isn't going to generate a whole lot more traffic than is there right now.
So my next question is, in the fall of every year, that parking lot is full of spectators that watch the game. Are you going to allow people to park in the Chase parking lot during football season?
Yeah, so this is actually a conversation we had with Jake. He pointed that out during our call to discuss the fire comments as well. I think Chase will, you know, whether it's through signage or some other means, I think they'll want to designate their spaces to make sure that they're not utilized by others. One of Jake's concerns actually was the potential for cars to park parallel sort of along this edge of pavement here. So we offered to Jake to, you know, put a handful of no parking signs along there just to, you know, hopefully avoid that situation. But I can't imagine Chase would want anyone other than their customers parking in their spaces.
You ever been here in the fall when it's a home game? Library's full, Shaw's is full.
Well, I mean, if it's after business hours, I don't want to speak for them. I don't know if,
Most of the games are at night.
yeah, so I think they'd be, you know, friendly neighbors but I can't speak to that completely.
I hope they're friendly neighbors, if people are going to park there whether you say so or not.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Any other questions from the audience? Being none, may I have a motion to continue this hearing till our next meeting,
Do you want to make that? May 14th,
May 14th?
just for the peer review stuff.
Okay, this has just gone under peer review, so probably the May 14th one, Todd, is that fine with you guys? No,
Yeah, I think that gives us, you know, adequate time to
okay.
put heads together and address all
May I have a
comments.
motion to continue our May 14th hearing?
I'd make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, Glenn?
Aye.
Workett?
Aye.
Ron? Jason? Myself, John Regan, and I. It is a vote. Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yeah, go.
Next on the agenda is applicant CEMS LLC, care of Harry Resnikoff, requesting a special permit and site plan under section 3.2.5.3 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for a coffee shop and other site improvements at 602 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass. 01501, map 56, parcel 148. May I have a motion to open the hearing?
Moved.
May I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Myself, John Regan, and I. The hearing is now open. Is there anyone here representing CMS LLC?
Good evening. My name is Henry Resnikoff. I'm the principal in CMMS LLC. With me is Jeff Ford of Bowler Engineering, a different office than this one that you just heard from. This is about 602 Southbridge Street. Most of you probably know it as Piccadilly Pub. It's currently 1.12 acres. It is zoned highway business. It's currently 87% impervious surface. I'm sure many of you've seen it. We're proposing to reduce that to 53% impervious surface, the balance of it being all landscaped. We have received to date the Conservation Commission permit. We've received to date our special permit from the ZBA for being in an Aquifer 2 zone. We have submitted, and part of your package is a traffic report, which has been submitted to Mass DOT, who issued an opinion that there's no impact. Should be in your packet also. We're proposing to reduce from 108 cars down to 28 cars with a 15-car queue with a bypass lane. I'd like to emphasize that the proposal has no cooking on site, other than that they heat water up for coffee and they heat prepared sandwiches. There will be no gas on site. The plan you have does show gas, but the tenant has opted to remove gas and go all electric. Regardless, we are still installing a 1,500-gallon grease trap just to have it there for protection. The site is serviced by public sewer, public water. Jeff will go into that a little more detail for you. We think the key thing here is that we're going to be, for lack of better words, cleaning up the site from a development point of view. Currently, the building is 5,600 square feet. We're proposing a 2,400 square foot building. It's a much smaller scale, much smaller impact. We're proposing to cut from 3 driveway cuts to 1 controlled driveway cut. And with that, I'll let Jeff go into any of the details, and then I can answer other questions if you have them.
Thank you, Henry. For the record, my name is Jeff Board, a professional engineer with Bowler Engineering. I'm just pulling up here a colorized version of our site plan, which the only difference from our site plan is that this has the landscaping shown. As Henry alluded to, we are bordered to the south, north being top of page, by Southbridge Street, and then to the west by Oxford Street North, and then we have a DOT on and off ramp adjacent to the north here. So we do have 2 frontages with 40-foot setbacks on either street here, which really set the development footprint. And one of the key things, and Henry alluded to this, it's not often that when we do a redevelopment, we get to reduce the amount of impervious cover as much as we are in this instance. And just for clarity, if you could follow my cursor, everything slopes basically from west to east. And there's an existing, and I'm sure all you drive this every day, there's a 3 or 4 foot retaining wall all along Southbridge Street here. And all of that impervious drains to 2 catch basins immediately on top of that existing wall. And it's all untreated. That's going right into the watershed downstream. So one of the things that we're doing too, and Henry alluded, it's that 34% or 17,000 square foot reduction in impervious coverage, the majority of which you can see is in this location here, where the previous development went right up to the property line on top of the wall. We've significantly pulled that back and then provided a buffer around the entire perimeter of the site. Henry also alluded to the fact that we closed off 3 curb cuts. We're down to now 1 curb cut, which is a full access movement in the location shown. It's kind of centered in between the existing signal and the on and off ramp for the DOT. One of the things that we did do, even though the only access point we have due to the grade change is on Oxford Street North, so we don't technically need a DOT access permit, we did submit plans to the DOT just due to the fact that we're in close proximity to their on and off ramp. They reviewed the traffic study, the volume counts that were generated and included in this package, and had no concerns. And that report basically stated that there'd be no adverse impacts to the traffic network going from that 6,000 square foot restaurant to the 2,400 square foot coffee shop with the drive-through here. Counterclockwise circulation. Again, the landscaping that is proposed complies with the zoning regulations. We did verify that we provided the frontage buffer requirements. We do have native species, including canopy trees, evergreen trees, 31 shrubs, a series of ground cover, and then different conservation seed mixes in some of the new landscaped areas. And then again, The stormwater, as I alluded to, there's currently no water quality treatment off that existing parking lot. We're not only taking what was in 7 to 10% cross slope going through that parking lot, so that water was really ripping untreated to those catch basins. We're flattening it out a bit just in the grading plan, and then we're capturing all the stormwater in a series of deep-hooded sump catch basins that are all offline, and then that go through and are routed through a hydrodynamic separator to treat total suspended solids, and that's prior to it exiting the site. One of the other things to note in this instance with the retaining wall being here, we've made every effort necessary not to disturb that retaining wall. So the entire development leaves that wall completely intact. And the only things that we're tying in over here are the stormwater pipe, which connects to one of the existing stormwater structures here on top of that retaining wall after being treated. And then there's a sanitary manhole that we're picking up on top of the existing lateral that comes through that wall with a doghouse manhole on top of that pipe. Regarding lighting plan, everything is dark sky compliant LED fixtures throughout. And then ENS will be installed in accordance to the regulations with silt sacks on the inlets, inlet protection, silt fence along the perimeter, construction entrance, et cetera. So with that, I can open it up for questions. I know Henry and I will be happy to answer any questions you guys may have here.
Anybody in the audience have any questions for the gentleman? Can you go up to the podium, up here to the first seat, speak into the microphone, identify yourself, please? There, right here, it doesn't matter.
I live on Oxford Street North. My name is Michelle Adelina. Just a few concerns with traffic and all that. You said that there's not going to be any adverse problems with the traffic. What are the hours of operation of the business? Do we know that? Anyone? Anyone?
Absolutely.
Oh,
5 a.m. to 11 p.m.
okay. So it's kind of, I know it's business zone, but the residential road of Oxford Street is already very high traffic. I don't know if you've ever seen Thursday through the weekends.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's quite trafficy, and I don't know, there are homes there, so I don't know how the traffic's go, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's kind of, I don't know, how that's going to impact. I don't know who to talk to, which way to direct this question.
You should direct it toward the planning board. We could hear what you were saying and asking the gentleman, it's fine.
There's just, it's just concerning with the traffic, the hours, the one, how is he, I can't tell, this is Southbridge Street here, you're showing, correct?
Southbridge is on the bottom.
And then the light at Southbridge and Oxford Street?
Right here.
So
So it comes
that,
down, so the light's basically right here. and then-
oh, the light's down there, okay.
Correct.
And that's your entrance, one entrance and exit?
Correct, and those other entrances, there was one up top
Right,
here, one in the
correct,
middle. and then one
correct.
down there.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm just more concerned on the hours of operation with our road, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. traffic. I don't know. Anyone else from the neighborhood? I don't know is here. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm very,
Excuse me. Could you identify yourself again? We didn't catch that. The secretary didn't catch that.
Michelle Adelina.
See you, buddy.
Thank you.
So similar to the previous applicant, I too am not a traffic engineer. I know we did have the traffic study that was prepared that spoke to no adverse impacts, and we were kind of benefited in this regard. Normally, we can't go to the DOT until we get local approvals. In this instance, because of the access point, they've already reviewed the volume counts relative to what were the volume counts for the restaurant, and they had no concerns at the DOT level with the proximity there. We certainly can get more information from the traffic consultant for the next hearing, because similar to the previous application, we're at the exact same phase where we have not received third-party review comments. We have received a handful of comments from DPW, from fire that we're working through. We too have had calls with Jack, the fire department, and plan to submit a comprehensive package once we do get those third-party review comments. So it's a very similar situation to what you guys just heard previous.
Anyone else from the audience have any questions? Being none, anybody on the board have any questions for this gentleman? No. Rakesh?
One question.
Sure.
Jeff, I think, thank you for the discussion here. So I think similar to what our town members stated, I think outside of the traffic assessment, going in and out, I think, and also identifying what the planning, the fire department's comments. I think a few things to note there. One is the traffic when Mass Pike is congested and backed up, and that all that piling on that street, and the impacts of people getting into this site, and also getting out, more importantly as well. Then I think there was a comment from the fire department on the turning radius, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting comment. We had talked to them about that, and really what it came down to is they were looking for turning radiuses and maneuvers for their large vehicle to not encroach on any lanes. And when you do that, unfortunately, it creates like a 120-foot curb cut if you're going to swing that size truck, their largest vehicle, into a site, which is not conventional for any development, let alone a smaller development like this. And it basically creates a free-for-all, unsafe condition, if you will, from the driveway standpoint. So we're working through that with him. There may be some minor modifications we can make to the radiuses to make them a little larger. They are a bit large now as it is. We can certainly do that, and that's just right in this location here. We did also speak with him about putting a small striped fire lane just on the end of this curb here. So I think we can get there with him, and when we submit back addressing the third-party review comments, we'll have a full response to comment letter addressing all outstanding concerns.
No other questions, Chair? Yep.
Your comment about the backup. The traffic engineer did look at the backup, did talk to Mass DOT about the backup, looked at specifically, I hope I have my directions right, going from the exit down towards the light was there was no concern about that because people could turn left into. The other point that DOT made to us, which my traffic engineer made to me, is our queuing is on site. So someone who's exiting the site is not causing any backup on Oxford Street. They have to wait, bottom line. They'll have to wait on site.
You don't drive in Massachusetts very much, do you?
I actually do.
People don't wait.
I do.
Don't wait.
I do drive a great deal in Massachusetts. I've been developing for almost 50 years, done quite a few projects, including some nearby here and other parts of Mass. So yes, I was brought up in a Boston, though I'm from Connecticut, I was brought up as a Boston driver. So I do understand how it works. But the point is that there is room on site for queuing and people will have to make time. The other emphasis he made was the distance from the driveway to the light. And that's important also. And that was deliberately chosen so that the driveway would be as far from the light as possible, yet not impinge on the off-ramp. It was sort of a balancing act.
You don't have any questions? I do. Go ahead, Glenn.
According to the letter here, the fire department apparatus is 47 and a half feet long. Your delivery trucks that come in are going to be probably 63 to 65 feet long.
I asked the same question of the tenant. They tend to actually get deliveries from smaller trucks. They don't get large box delivery. That there may be one occasionally, but in general, it's smaller van size delivery.
I'm a driver myself, and I hope that's the case, but
I asked the same question, believe me.
I've never seen one of these stores get a delivery from less than a 48-foot trailer.
I will double check.
Actually, one question, Henry or Jeff. The site itself, so it says it has 6 employees. Is there access inside, or is it just drive-through only from the site?
This is a fully operational restaurant, so there are seats inside, there's a patio outside. Their peak employee, I believe it's the AM, is 6 employees. And I think what she told me is the peak PM is 5 employees.
Any other questions? Rod, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a concern with the exit where it is. Now, you just spoke of the distance from that exit to the traffic light. And what is that distance? Like if you went out the exit,
I'm doing this from memory. I believe the traffic engineer said it's 150 feet. That's a queuing of approximately 6 to 7 cars.
so you come out that exit, and if you want to go south down Southbridge Street, you come out, go straight across, and then it's 150 feet approximately down to the light.
That's correct.
And the other concern I have is with the cars are coming down Southbridge Street, not the south, and then they're gonna pull in to that exit with the other cars that are gonna be coming down Southbridge Street and not going into that facility and going right up Oxford Street North, then, I think that could be a.
So the point that the traffic engineer made is look at what exists today with 108 car parking, which has, and I've sat there and watched people come in at all angles, at all times. I've been there in the morning, I've been there PM, I've been there in the summer, I've been there on Thursdays. It's a free-for-all right now. And if you sit out there now and see how this particular restaurant, I'm not saying how they operate, how people come to the restaurant. People just come in helter-skelter. What Jeff has designed and the traffic engineer concurs with is a controlled entrance. Again, there'll be backup for queuing, like there's any other left-hand turn or right-hand turn. I think the traffic engineer said that the exiting right now by traffic count, and he did counts, is slightly more northbound on Oxford Street than it is southbound on Oxford Street. So it's not quite 50-50, it's a little bit split, but beyond that. It's in the report. I'm trying to do it from memory, so you'll forgive me.
The queue lane is from once you enter that exit, and you sweep up around the building to where you start to come down or order or come out the windows. And about how many cars can you queue in there?
15. And it does have an escape lane also.
Any questions, Jason? Okay. I got a couple. I'd like to know what all the cloak and dagger is about, because all I read through here is quick serve breakfast shop, quick serve breakfast shop. Let's call it what it is. It's a frickin' Starbucks. And I want to know why Starbucks, they must be making way too much money to tear down a building, to rebuild a new one, when they already got a permit to put one up on Route 20, right behind just the other side of Burger King and the old bank. They already had the queuing in and everything.
I can't answer their a company strategy. I do know that when I enter into any tenant, and not just this particular tenant, I'm forced to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and they're very emphatic about the developer honoring that NDA. I've honored it for 50 years with tenants, from home.
Still a Starbucks.
I can't publicly say that.
No, but I can.
I'm as I said, I can't.
Well, everybody know it is a Starbucks. I mean, if you don't come clean at what it's going to be, then I'm not going to be I'll be the first one in line to say no. If I don't know what's going in there, why would I say yes? And your controlled exit entrance, quote unquote, you say you have a 15-car queue? Well, what happens when that 15-car queue is filled up all the way to that entrance and they start backing up on Route 12? Your traffic engineer did not go out there in peak time, because I've driven that intersection every day for the last 21 years. And I've seen that intersection backed up at 5 o'clock in the morning, past the exit from 290, all the way to the police station. So now you're going to get somebody coming out of Starbucks to try to make a left-hand turn. They're going to inch their way out. They're going to block the cars coming in to go to Oxford Street North, and that's going to back up traffic on Route 12. And then you're going to have a backup on Oxford Street. So I don't care what you're a traffic engineer, you're not being practical. I've seen it, I drive it all the time.
My comment to you is that the 15-car queuing is on-site for pickup.
Correct, but what happens if it backs up?
Beyond 15 cars?
Yeah,
There's actually room for more cars than 15. We could have shown 20 on-site.
you could have showed 50 on site, but once
I
that
don't
gets
think
filled,
I don't think we'd get to 50, but
have you seen the line of Dunkin' Donuts downtown?
yes, sir.
You get more than 50 cars there.
I don't think you get 50
You go
cars.
all the way up to the Shell station, all the way around the corner up the side street, all the way into the building, all the way down to the serving.
I will ask the tenant what the average queue is and the length of time of the queue.
How do they know?
They measure them. They keep count of those things.
Yeah, but how do they know how much time it's going to take?
They keep count of actual operational time. And they have a national database.
Yeah, that's actual optimum operational time.
No, this is real time of operating stores.
I get it, but it's still optimal operating time. That's, everything goes correctly, nobody drops a coffee pot, the muffins don't get knocked off the table, the microwave doesn't heat up properly, it's going to back up the queue. That is optimum operating. That's what they shoot for. Is it actually 100% accurate? I doubt it.
Well, I have done 9 of this particular unnamed tenant, and I know that the data that's been provided is from actual delivery time, not projected actual store operations. So I'll ask them for the data.
Yeah, I just think it's a bad place for Starbucks myself. You guys can call it a quick serve breakfast place all you want, but I'm going to call it what it is, and that's a Starbucks. Furthermore, in your details on your frames and covers, you list LeBaron Foundry. LeBaron Foundry, again, has not existed in over 15 years. So I don't know where you're getting frames and covers from. It's not LeBaron. To me, that's an engineer that's not doing his job. He's not being thorough enough. Anybody in the business knows that they haven't been around. So my next question is, whether it's you or the gentleman behind you, why in God's name would you put a doghouse manhole in on a 6-inch sanitary AC pipe? You know it's asbestos concrete, right? Why wouldn't you just cut it off and put a whole manhole in with a stub in and a stub out?
That was one of the conversations we're having with the town. So the plan set that comes back in, there's still additional coordination taking place with the DPW on that particular connection.
Because all dog manholes leak.
Fair enough.
They do. So,
Same cost as a regular manhole, so if that's what they'd prefer or you prefer, we could certainly put in a manhole. It's the same structure.
well, it's not the same structure. A precast manhole has a base with a cord hole with a rubber boot.
Understood?
The doghouse does not. It doesn't have a rubber boot, and I know darn well you're not going to use Hydrotite to wrap the pipe or wrap the opening or put it around where you pour your slab and put the doghouse on. I
can get you
did
additional
this my
detail.
whole life, so I know what you're going to try. I know what they're going to try to do, and it's not the right way to do it.
We could provide additional detail and coordinate with the DPW to provide something a little more air.
That would be the sewer department, not the DPW, for the doghouse manhole. On a drain line, that's a little different, but on a sewer line, Any other questions from the board or from the audience? Could you come up to the podium and state your name, your address?
Hi, my name is Rambo Adelina, same as my wife, Adelina is the last name. First name is spelled Rambod. I'm currently resident at 483 Oxford Street, and I was listening to some of the development, and what is missing, essentially what the Oxford Street actually north is a cut through from Worcester all the way to the Auburn to Mass Pike.
Absolutely.
And what's happening is, when you get a trailer truck that comes out of this exit 12, you're talking about 150 feet of space for 5, 6 cars. When you get a trailer parked there, there's no way to get out. That's 150 right there. So what's happening is, this is, as gentleman mentioned, is already backed up by the police station. It's about 1.5 miles. If I want to get to the Shaws to come to my house, it takes me about half an hour, 45 minutes. If I want to reroute myself to Southbridge Street to come that way, based on the timing and spaces that this operation is going to happen with just one entrance, 150. I mean, I don't think that's realistic. What needs to happen is potentially, if I want to take the route to come home, it's always going to be traffic as a resident to get in and out. So 5 a.m., rush hours, like the engineer said, I don't know where they get this information from, but reality is summertime comes, peak hours between 5 to 11 o'clock. Already Bentley is causing a lot of traffic because I live there. I go by it every day for 35 years. So I just want to make that note to what I see as, I don't think that's reasonable for the residents of Oxford Street North, based on what I see by the design, but one opening, if you expand the opening, that to me is right on the light. It doesn't mean anything to me about 150 feet of space for the cars. That's all I'm saying.
Appreciate it. The traffic engineer that did the study and the design, he has not been out there, especially the week of Thanksgiving, because the Mass Pike backs up, so 290 backs up, so people try to get off 290 to get around to get to the entrance to the Mass Pike that way, and that backs up the road, and that backs up Oxford Street even more. Same at Christmas time. It's the same thing. So I don't know where we go from here, but your entrance being so close to the intersection, you're kind of between a rock and a hard place, because you have the exit from 290, and you got the entrance onto Route 12 from Oxford Street, and the state has the right arrow, but you can't see the right arrow when you pull up to the stop line like you're supposed to. It's already above your head. You can't see it in a small car. I can't even see it in my pickup truck, and I'm high enough. It should have been across the street. That whole intersection needs to be redesigned. Absolutely. That place used to have two entrances. There used to be one on Southbridge Street, but the state took it away when they redid Route 20, I don't know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. That might have made a difference, but coming in and out of that one driveway and then coming back out in peak hours, I don't know. I have my doubts. Any other questions from the board? Any other questions from the audience? May I have a motion to continue the hearing to our May 14th?
That seems doable.
To our May 14th meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Glenn?
Aye.
Rakesh, Ron?
Aye.
Myself, John Regan, aye. Let's continue to the next meeting.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome. Next on the agenda is amendments to section 9.3.12 accessory apartments of the Auburn zoning bylaw. Proposed changes include size limitations and allowing for detached accessory apartments. May I have a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Glenn? Sierra?
Aye.
Rakesh? Ron? Jason?
Aye.
Myself, Jeremy's an aye. It is now open. You gonna make the presentation?
What?
You're gonna make the presentation?
Yeah, I'll talk.
Okay.
So the zoning bylaw review committee has been reviewing the accessory apartment bylaw for the past year or so. The intent is to address some of the challenges we currently have with permitting accessory apartments and to try to allow having in more places. Currently, you can only have an accessory apartment that is attached to a single-family house. So if you have a detached garage, you can't put an apartment above it. That is going to be changing if this passes town meeting, as well as allowing slightly larger size apartments in certain cases. And this is becoming more common as the housing costs keep rising and multi-generations staying together for economic reasons. So I've worked with the committee for a while on this to get to this point.
Suggested something similar to,
Anybody else have any other questions for Adam? I have one question. Is this going to affect, we went through the whole tiny house thing where for the in-law it could be 20 feet from the house and their own separate. Is that going to have any effect on that, or is that going to still stay in force? That's allowed?
No, it's separate from the tiny homes. These are already controlled by building code to some extent. They currently require a special permit in ZBA, so there's that check on them, and they'll still require a special permit. And it's just basically building a bathroom, a kitchen, and a bedroom. A living space is what you're building. In addition to a single family, it can't be on like a multifamily. You can't add accessory to a multifamily.
You can't add on to a multifamily?
No. just a single family, just an accessory unit.
So if it's a detached garage, you're going to be allowed to put an apartment above it?
Correct.
Okay. We need a motion for a recommendation.
Actually, John, did Adam say the size, going from what size? Yeah.
Right now, the maximum is 700 square feet. They're changing it to, can either be up to 50% of a house to 1,000 feet. So the biggest is going to be 1,000 feet.
Maximum.
But if you have like a 1,400 square foot house, you can only build a 700 square foot apartment. It's trying to keep it fitting the residential nature of,
What was the part I just, the detached garage currently does not allow for an in-law apartment. but
Correct.
Now it's going to,
Above, yeah.
above.
some people have had to go to great lengths to
It said
attach a
also-
garage to make it.
In our other, the housing study, that would help alleviate some
Yep.
of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, if you take like a normal garage of 24 by 30, you're well under 1,000 square feet. You can make a nice little apartment up there.
Yeah.
It's only allowed to go up one floor, or is it going to be allowed to go up two?
Probably just one floor. There aren't many that have multiple floors.
Okay. So you're looking for a recommendation from the planning
Yep,
board?
if there's no comments, we can close the hearing, then we need a recommendation to
Okay.
town meeting.
Could I have a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor, Glenn?
Yes.
Sierra?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Myself, Johnny's an aye. It is a vote. May I have a motion to recommend this to town meeting?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Jason?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Duarkesh?
Aye.
Sierra? Glenn? Myself, John Regan, and I. It is a vote. It's being recommended. Next on the agenda is amendments to section 4.1.5.3 floodplain district of the Auburn zoning bylaw to correct wording from the 2023 approval. May I have a motion to open the hearing?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Glenn? Sierra? Duarkesh? Ron? Jason? Myself, John Regan, and I. Hearing's now open. The floor is yours, Adam, again.
This, if you remember from last fall, at the town meeting, you all reviewed the floodplain bylaw. This is simply correcting some language that didn't get copy and pasted properly, so we got to go through the process of correcting the error.
What does that correction consist of? Do you know off the top of your head?
The language was in your packet. I couldn't understand it. This is language from the federal government, so it's just, basically, they wrote the bylaw last year, and we just have to approve it.
I see. I can see the mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? Any from the audience have any questions regarding that? May I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
May I have a second? All those in favor, Glenn?
Aye.
Sierra? Duarkesh? Ron?
Aye.
Jason? Myself, John Regan, and I. The hearing is now closed. May I have a motion to recommend this to town meeting?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second? All those in favor? Glenn? Sierra?
Aye.
Rakesh? Ron?
Aye.
Jason? Myself, John Riggs, and I. It is a vote, and we recommend it to the town. Next on the agenda is amendments to section 6.2.3 parking of the Auburn zoning bylaw. Proposed change will reduce the required parking spaces for a dwelling unit from 2 spaces to 1.5 parking spaces. May I have a motion to open the hearing?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Glenn? Sierra? Duarkesh?
Aye.
Ron? Jason?
Aye.
Myself, John Regan, and I. The hearing is now open. Is there anyone in the audience that has any questions regarding the zoning bylaw change? Being none, does anyone on the board have any questions for the zoning bylaw change?
Like, how do you have half a parking
Yeah.
spot?
Adam, the floor is yours. Floor is yours, Adam.
That's the rationale.
We round up, basically. So this is part of our effort to become MBTA compliant. the gated community requirement. Currently, this is all we have to do to become compliant, according to my last run through of their crazy statistical Excel sheet, is just rounding up. Yes.
Why do they want to change?
We have to comply with the MBTA community by general law that was passed 3 years ago now, to develop more housing, specifically more apartments. We have to, otherwise we're going to lose funding for grants. We don't really have much of a choice.
So reducing the number of spaces from 2 to 1.5 because we're rounding up.
Basically, it's semantics, it sounds like. So.
Oh, my God.
If you have, say, for example.
Leave it to the state of Massachusetts,
Like, for example, if you remember.
Commonwealth, I should say.
Last year, there was where the car dealership was going in, we had 2 apartments in that
Yep.
building, and we required 4. In this case, if it's passed, you only need 3. So it's just, if there was a 3-apartment building, you need 4.5 spaces. You can't have 4, so you can have 5. It's just a numbers game.
Okay.
So, and what's the rationale? This is just funding?
Lots of funding, and then you could get sued if we don't comply.
We don't want that.
Let's avoid lawyers.
Yeah.
They're
the only ones that are winning,
That
the
are
lawyers.
complying, that are facing lawsuits from the Attorney General.
Let's avoid that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? May I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
May I have a second? All those in favor, Glenn? Sierra? Rakesh, Ron? Jason? Myself, Jeremy, and I. The hearing is now closed, voted and recommended for the town. Next on the agenda is applicant Mercedes Familia requesting site plan approval under section 3.2.3.1.1 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for an in-home daycare at 24 Rockland Road, Auburn, Mass. 01501, map 17, parcel 27. Is there anyone here representing the Mercedes Familia family?
I don't see them.
Well, may I have a motion to continue, because I have questions. I don't know if anybody else in the board or anybody in the audience, but I would have some questions.
I'll make the motion to continue.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Glenn? Sierra? Rakesh? Ron?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Myself, Jen Reeves, and I, it is a vote.
What are we continuing it to?
Our next meeting. Next on the agenda is applicant Webster 5 requesting site plan approval and special permit under section 3.2.3.11 and 3.9.2.2 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for a bank with drive-through and site improvements. The existing building is to be demolished at 400 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass. 01501, map 35, parcel 2. This has been continued from our 3/12/24 meeting. Is there anyone here representing Webster 5?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, Todd.
Good evening. Did you open your hearing?
No, this is a continued hearing.
Let's continue.
Great. Attorney Todd Broder here on behalf of the applicant. We were here a few weeks back. Since then, we received the Graves Engineering peer review comment letter dated March 8. You should have a copy of a March 19 response from McCarty Engineering and a further letter from Graves dated April 4th, which I would characterize as a clean, quote-unquote, review letter with no outstanding issues. So happy to discuss any further issues the board may have, but we don't have further information for you.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience has any questions regarding this? Anyone on the board have any questions regarding this? May I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
May I have a second? All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Sierra? Rakesh? Ron? Jason?
Aye.
Myself, John Regan, and I. May I have a motion to approve as submitted?
Glenn shouldn't be voting.
What's that?
Glenn shouldn't be voting.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Glenn. May I have a motion to approve? as submitted?
that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Sierra?
Aye.
Rakesh? Ron?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Myself, John Regan, and I. It is a vote. It is approved.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next on the agenda is applicant John Welsh, Herb Chambers, requesting site plan approval under 9.4 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for reconfiguration of the parking lot, 735 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass. 01501, map 33, parcel 88. This has been continued from our 3/12/24 meeting. Is there anyone here representing Herb Chambers? Computer?
I'm getting a little bit of
We're
feedback.
getting feedback here.
Maybe from our mics.
I don't know how it could be. I don't know why I need two. All set? What's that? It's not us. Turn up the volume.
Sorry, you're a little bit muffled.
Members of the board, my name is Christian Yates, and I'm representing the applicant.
We can't hear you. Do you have a set of earphones with a microphone that we can hear you clear?
No, I'm using a large microphone.
It's coming through with an echo. We can't even understand you.
How about now?
Still can't understand you.
Does it sound any better from?
Oh, you sound perfect.
Whoever's speaking now is perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect.
All right. For the record, my name is David Newhall of Crocker Design Group. Also here on behalf of the applicant of Herb Chambers for the Auburn Hyundai. So since our last meeting, we've received a clean letter from peer review from Graves Engineering. So we got our peer review back. We addressed all their comments and then received a supplemental letter from the peer review engineer saying that we addressed all of their comments. A few of the changes that we made to those plans and some of those comments in their peer review letter echoed a lot of the comments made by the board at our first meeting. The first thing we addressed was we put snow storage on our site layout plan. We originally had that in as part of the stormwater management report that we put together. We then took those snow storage areas and we've now labeled those on our site layout plan. We revised the southern side of the parking lot. We previously just had low shrubs along Route 20. We added 5 trees along the southern side of the parking lot and removed some of the small shrubs to allow room for these trees to be planted. One of the comments from the peer review was to add at least one ornamental tree to the planting islands. So the only non-native species on our landscape plan are the requested ornamental trees, which are in our landscape islands within the parking area. We revised some calculations within our stormwater management report that addressed some questions that Graves Engineering had. Some were just some minor calculations, nothing materially changed on the plans themselves. And then the last was just adding a north arrow to our layout plan, and then also a clarification of what we meant for our diversion weirs on our grading and drainage plan. With that, we'd like to turn it over to the board to any further questions you might have on our plans and our application in front of you.
I recall the board making a comment on light pollution at the street and addressing that.
Yep, our plans show for the foot candles to be, I believe it's 0.1 at the property line along the Washington Street entrance.
So nothing shining out on the Route 20. It ends at the
Nothing on
property line.
Route 20. Yep.
Can't see it, just starting off on the street. Any other questions?
John, yeah.
Sure, Ron.
Which one is the property line, the red line?
Yes.
I got it, yep.
And I hope that all of
Supposed
our
to be zero
plans
at
are
the
stated
property line.
properly as
That's what
well.
he said.
I see a lot more than zeros.
Beyond the property? Hang on a second.
I believe at the property line, we have 0.1, which is de minimis of light.
Can you clarify, is the red line your property line or your proposed project line?
That is the property line, the red line.
So just a quick question, why is it 0.1 beyond the property line instead of 0? Right, the next line past that, which is actually, looks like the curb for the roadway, it looks like it is 0. But between, whether that's, call it a walkway or a green space going down the road, it says 0.1. I don't understand why it's 0.1 when it's supposed to be 0.
We have full cutoffs on the light. It's as low as we have it. The 0.1 is, it's not, I mean, factually it's not 0, but it's pretty much the same effect as 0.
I could see it at the light where the island is, the Triangle Island. I could see that being 0.1. But why would it be 0.1 from a light that's on the building under A and A on the bottom part of the page? I don't understand that. And also on the left side of the page, you have 0.1, 0.2, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And your light, I don't even see a light there unless it's B. It must be right there next to the B. So I don't know why the light would carry that far. And I really don't understand why it would carry that far from the lighting on the parking spaces there going out towards Washington Street. I mean, those are mounted, those are poles, but I don't know how high they are off the top of my head. But I mean, I would understand the one at the island, but not the other 3 there.
I would agree with you. There's a LSI is the lighting vendor that generates these plans that has the program for the foot candles. I don't know why it would be 0.1 opposed to 0 along that Washington Street, along the property line, especially when we have 0.2s and it stays to be 0.1, where pretty much everywhere else it seems it goes from 0.2 to 0 when that next cross section over. Again, it's a very, very, very small amount of light that is at that property line, if any at all.
At the top of the page, you have beyond the property line, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, and at the property line, you have 0.4, 0.6, 0.7, and then going out the roadway there, it's 0 on the left side of the page and 0 on the right side. To get down to right next to it says limit of the work typical, it's 0.1 again. So I don't know where the property line is on the right-hand side of the page. Is that the green line?
It's pretty far to the right. There's a pretty sizable bordering vegetated wetland area.
But going toward the top of the page, that's not your property. From the red line at the top of the page?
No, on the top side of that red line is not our
Okay.
property.
And it's not your,
What's to the left of the property line, John?
I don't know, what's to the left of the property line?
Looking at, they don't know what's to the left
Which
of the
property line?
It's probably on the plot plan. The butter.
There's
Chuck's.
Chuck's
There's 2
Steakhouse.
properties to the left of us. One is a
It's Chuck's Steakhouse, right?
commercial dealership use to the left, and then there's a single-family residence as well, and then there's single-family residences to the top, and then to the right, to plan east, is the steakhouse on the other side of the wetlands.
Because other than that lighting, it's pretty much a clean set of plans. I mean, could we recommend this with the contingent upon that light being changed to 0 beyond the property line?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move that we approve,
I gotta close this
oh,
one
sorry,
first.
but
May I have a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Myself, John Reese, and I. May I have a motion to approve the plan with the contingent upon it being resubmitted to the town showing zeros beyond all property lines?
So I make that motion?
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron? Jason? Myself, John Reese, and I. It is a vote. Thank you, gentlemen.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight and
You're welcome.
rest of your evening.
Next on the agenda, we have any discussion under other business?
No, no discussion.
Any modification? I didn't see any. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of 3/12/2024?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Sierra?
Aye.
Aye.
Rakesh? Ron? Jason? Myself, John Regan, and I. It is a vote. There's no new business unforeseen by me. Any member town planner update?
Just, I will not be here at the next meeting. I will plan on calling in, arrange for somebody to everything up and start the meeting and stuff. But that's probably why I also pushed off, because I didn't think they'd be ready anyways, instead of what's on next agenda.
I won't be at the next meeting either.
I'll be there.
Thank you. Seeing that's all been discussed, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second? All those in favor, Sierra?
Aye.
Aye.
Rakesh, aye. Ron? Jason? Myself, John Regan, and I. It is a vote. The meeting is now adjourned.